Namaskar, good morning. You are watching Rajya Sabha television. I am Smriti Rastogi with Breakfast News. Let's begin the bulletin with the top headlines of the day. Prime Minister to begin two-day tour to Maldives and Sri Lanka today to hold bilateral talks with presidents of both the nations and Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. In a tweet, says visits indicate the importance of India's policy of neighbourhood first. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy's cabinet expansion today. 25-member cabinet, including Jagan's 5 deputies, to take oath in Amravati. State cabinet to be reconstituted after a mid-term review 2.5 years later. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to attend G20 Finance Ministers meeting in Japan beginning today. Global economy investment key agenda at the Global Forum. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal also in Japan to attend G20 meeting on trade and digital economy. Delayed by a week, monsoon to hit Kerala today. State Disaster Management Authority issues a red alert in 4 districts of the state. Heat wave conditions likely to continue in north and central India next week. Annual Kailash Mansarovar Yatra to commence from today. 3-month-long yatra to end on September 8th. 18 batches of 60 pilgrims to visit via Lipu Lake route in Uttarakhand. 10 batches of 50 yatris to visit via Sikkim's Nathula route. Our top focus this morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will begin a visit to Maldives and Sri Lanka today. This is his first visit abroad since assuming office for the second term. In a pre-departure statement, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that his visit to Maldives and Sri Lanka reflects the importance of India, which it attaches to the neighbourhood first policy, and that it will further cement bilateral ties with the 2 maritime countries. The Prime Minister will first travel to Maldives in his first bilateral visit after retaining power in the Lok Sabha polls. From Maldives, he will go to Sri Lanka on Sunday. My colleague Akhilesh Suman brings this report.
In the first foreign visit of his second term, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Maldives and Sri Lanka. Ahead of his visit, Prime Minister Modi tweeted, saying the visits indicate the importance India attaches to the policy of neighbourhood first. Thanking Maldivian President Soli for inviting him, PM Modi said India views Maldives as a valued partner. He also expressed solidarity with the people of Sri Lanka who witnessed the horrific terror attacks on Easter Sunday. He said that India fully supports Sri Lanka in the fight against terror. In the first leg, Prime Minister Modi will hold summit-level meeting with Maldivian President Ibrahim Mohamed Soli. The 2 leaders are expected to discuss issues of mutual importance with terror and global warming high on agenda. Prime Minister Modi will also address Maldives Parliament, known as People's Majlis, and meet former President Mohammad Nasheed. He will also inaugurate a coastal surveillance radar system and a composite training center for the Maldives Defence Forces built with India's assistance.
Delegation level talks, signing of agreements. There would also be the joint inauguration by remote link of the composite training facility of Maldivian National Defence Forces, as well as the coastal radar surveillance system, which India is implementing under an Indian grant. This will be followed by some key agreements across several areas, including customs cooperation, connectivity issues like ferry service, some defence agreements, some capacity building agreements. After that, Prime Minister will address the newly constituted Majlis.
Prime Minister Modi will reach Sri Lankan capital Colombo on Sunday. There, he will hold summit meeting with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and hold talks with President Maithripala Sirisena. The talks are expected to focus on combating terrorism and development issues. He's also scheduled to address a gathering of Indians living in Sri Lanka.
Have talks with President Sirisena with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. He will meet the leader of the opposition, Mahinda Rajapaksa, and he will also have meetings with Mr. Sambandhan, who heads the TNA, the Tamil parties. And obviously, although the visit will be short, there will be a review of the relationship and identification of how we move ahead.
During the visit, India is expected to sign key agreements with both Maldives and Sri Lanka to boost ties. Both Maldives and Sri Lanka are immensely important to India's strategic needs in the Indo-Pacific. The economies of both nations are also closely linked to India.
There was a time when people used to say that China is trying to encircle India with rings of pearls of adversaries. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi is trying to reverse it with creating rings of pearls of friends. Any country's security is not just dependent on securing its border, but also creating friendship with the neighboring countries. And that is why Prime Minister Narendra Modi has chosen to come to Maldives and Sri Lanka in his first visit in the second tenure. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha Television with camera person D.K. Pandey in Maldives.
And to get more insights into the visit of a Prime Minister to Maldives and Sri Lanka, we'll go across to our correspondent Akhilesh Suman, who is joining us live from Male. Akhilesh, considering India's neighbourhood first policy, how important and significant is Prime Minister's visit to the two nations, Maldives and Sri Lanka?
India has given importance to the neighbourhood first policy indeed. And what was really distressing for India in last many years, that SAARC, that was immediate neighbourhood association for India, SAARC was almost failing. It was not working. And in that situation, Prime Minister Narendra Modi wanted to coordinate and have a relationship with BIMSTEC leaders. But some of the countries which were part of SAARC, but they are not part of SAARC, like Maldives. Maldives is a part of SAARC nation, but Maldives is not part of Maldives nations. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also like to talk to the future of South Asian countries, and the future of South Asian countries are being taken over by some countries like Pakistan, which gives assistance, support, shelter and encouragement to the terrorist elements. And Maldives is also one of the most vulnerable countries in Indus Ocean, because Maldives is a conglomeration of almost 1,200 islands, and securing 1,200 islands is very important thing. And in that situation, you have to create a bonhomie of a type that you are secure, you are not dependent on outside powers that give rise and give encouragement to terrorist elements. And people have said that Maldives is very vulnerable to radicalization and terrorism, and that is why the last government in Maldives, Mr. Yamin's government, was very vulnerable, though he tried to create alliance with the radical elements here. He also tried to invite China, that was also creating pressure on Maldives' sovereignty. So in that situation, India's neighborhood, if they are not happy, if they are not independent, and if they are not democratic, it will be a challenge for India and Sri Lanka, and also for all other nations of South Asia. And I think Prime Minister Narendra Modi is trying to create a situation where these countries, smaller countries, are not challenged by terrorists, not challenged by radical elements, and not getting influence, allurements by the foreign powers like China and Pakistan. So I think that is why Prime Minister Narendra Modi has chosen. And I think there will be talking about the future of SAARC, there will be talking about BIMSTEC, right. And there will be talking whether India, Maldives, Sri Lanka and other countries can cooperate much intensively against the issue of terrorism, and cooperate much intensively so that people's need of Maldives can be fulfilled in a better way and more sustained way, without going into the debt trap that Maldives and Sri Lanka had been facing earlier because of China,
Right, Akhilesh, thank you so much for joining us and giving us all those details from there in Male. And ahead of the visit, foreign visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Kerala late last night. He is scheduled to offer prayers at Guruvayur Temple in Thrissur district today, and will also address BJP workers in the first time in Kerala after the poll win. An External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is on a two-day visit to Bhutan. Jaishankar, who arrived in Bhutan on Friday, met the country's top leadership. During his meeting with Bhutanese Prime Minister Lotay Tshering, discussions were held on important elements of the bilateral ties, with emphasis on development, partnership and cooperation in hydropower sector. The External Affairs Minister also conveyed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's greetings during his talks with Prime Minister Tshering. Earlier, Jaishankar held talks with his Bhutanese counterpart Tandi Dorji and discussed issues of mutual interest. This is S. Jaishankar's first overseas trip after assuming charge of the Ministry of External Affairs. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will attend the two-day meeting of G20 finance ministers and central bank governors in Japan beginning today. Besides Sitharaman, RBI Governor Shaktikant Das is also likely to attend the meeting. The meeting is likely to focus on risks and challenges being faced by the global economy, investment in infrastructure and international taxation. The deliberations at the meeting would be followed by the G20 Leaders Summit scheduled at Osaka later this month. And Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal will lead the Indian delegation for the two-day G20 ministerial meeting on trade and digital economy at Japan's Tsukuba city today. Global trade, WTO, matters and digital trade will be the key agendas of the discussion at the meeting. Goyal will also hold dialogue with the participating trade ministers on current international trade and investments. The newly set up Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs met on Friday ahead of the first session of the new Lok Sabha. The committee met at the residence of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Home Minister Amit Shah was among the ministers who attended the meeting, which comes days before the Parliament session, beginning on 17th of June. A decision on the pro tem speaker, election of speaker and presentation of the union budget were some of the important issues that committee discussed yesterday. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee on Friday wrote to Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressing her inability to attend the Niti Aayog meeting on June 15th. In the letter, she said the formation of Niti Aayog was unilaterally announced without any discussion with the chief ministers. She said Niti Aayog has no financial powers to support state plans. Earlier too, Banerjee had skipped meetings of the policy think tank and creation of a new structure. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to chair the fifth meeting of the Niti Aayog's Governing Council on 15th of June. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi on Friday met Congress Parliamentary Party Chief Sonia Gandhi in New Delhi. During the meeting, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister sought her party's cooperation for smooth functioning of the Parliament session beginning from 17th of June. Prahlad Joshi was accompanied by Union Ministers Narendra Singh Tomar and Arjun Ram Meghwal. The meeting is part of the government's exercise to reach out to the opposition. Earlier, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister also met Leader of the Opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Ghulam Nabi Azad, and DMK's Leader of the House in the Lok Sabha, T.R. Balu. The Parliament session, the first of the 17th Lok Sabha, will go on till 26th of July, and the budget will be tabled on 5th of July. Besides presentation of the budget, the government is planning to convert into law 10 new ordinances, including the one to ban the practice of instant triple talaq. Congress President Rahul Gandhi arrived in Kerala on Friday on a three-day visit to thank people of the state and his constituency, Wayanad, for electing him to the parliament. He will also hold roadshows in various towns of the Wayanad district today. Congress President held a roadshow in Kalikavu town in Malappuram district of Kerala on Friday. This is Congress President's first visit to the constituency after the Lok Sabha elections. Rahul Gandhi's roadshow at Thiruvambadi assembly segment will be held on Sunday.
My response is that my door is going to be open to every single individual, every single citizen of Wayanad. My job is to listen to the people of Wayanad and speak with the voice of the people of Wayanad.
And the three-day CPM Politburo and Central Committee meetings began in Delhi on Friday to review the party's electoral performance in the recent Lok Sabha elections. The ongoing Central Committee meet will assess the reasons for defeat and come up with measures to strengthen the party. The Kerala CPM reportedly made it clear that the party can come back during the forthcoming assembly by-elections. As per the reports, the West Bengal CPM said the party hasn't lost its core vote base in the state. And some more news, the new Council of Ministers of Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy cabinet will be sworn in at a public function in Amravati today. The state government will have a record number of 5 deputy chief ministers and a full 25-member cabinet. The deputy chief ministers will represent scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, backward classes, minorities and Kapu communities. He also told his legislators that the cabinet would predominantly comprise members from the weaker sections. Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy has said that the cabinet would predominantly comprise members of the weaker section. He also said that cabinet would be reconstituted 2.5 years later after a mid-term review of the government's performance. Reserve Bank weekly data released on Friday showed India's foreign exchange reserves has increased by 1.875 billion US dollars to 421.867 billion US dollars in the week ending on May 31st. In the previous week, the reserves had risen by $1.99 billion to $419.99 billion. In the reporting week, foreign currency assets, which is a major component of the overall reserves, rose by $1.946 billion to $394.134 billion. And with that, we'll slip into a very quick break. More news and updates on the other side. Stay with us.
Rabindranath Tagore was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913 for his book Gitanjali. In 1950, he composed the music and lyrics for India's national anthem Jana Gana Mana. And when Bangladesh became independent in 1971, they chose Tagore's song Amar Shonar Bangla as its national anthem. Tagore's life and works have made him a cultural icon, studied the world over, even into the 21st century.
Welcome back. A day after India confirmed that no bilateral talks will take place with Pakistan at the upcoming SCO summit, Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has written to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, offering talks to resolve all disputes, including the Kashmir issue. In the letter, Khan congratulated Prime Minister Modi on his second term as the Prime Minister of India and said that talks between the two nations were the only solution to help both the countries overcome poverty and work for regional development. And Pakistan Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has also sent a congratulatory letter to his new Indian counterpart S. Jaishankar. In the letter, Qureshi also said that Islamabad wants talks with New Delhi on all important matters and remains committed to efforts for establishing peace in the region. And the annual Kailash Mansarovar Yatra organized by the External Affairs Ministry will commence from today. The 3-month-long yatra to end on September 8th. There are 2 routes for this yatra. The route through Lipu Lake Pass in Uttarakhand involves some trekking. The other route through Nathula Pass in Sikkim is motorable. The yatra will be conducted on both these routes. Mount Kailash and Lake Mansarovar are in Tibet. There will be 18 batches consisting of 60 yatris via the Lipu Lake route and 10 batches consisting of 50 yatris via the Nathula route. The duration of the yatra is 24 days for each batch, including 3 days in Delhi for preparatory work. And weather news now. Sticking to its revised prediction, Indian Meteorological Department has said that monsoon is likely to reach Kerala today. The Kerala State Disaster Management Authority has issued red and orange alerts in different parts of the state from June 9th to 11th. A red alert, which means a very heavy to extremely heavy rainfall, has been issued in Thrissur district on June 10th and Ernakulam, Malappuram and Kozhikode district on June 11th. An orange alert, which means heavy to very heavy rainfall, has been issued in the state capital Thiruvananthapuram, Kollam, among others, on June 9th and 10th. Meanwhile, IMD has said that heat wave conditions are likely to continue in north and central India next week. The Meteorological Department has predicted a severe heat wave in Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan and Vidarbha in Maharashtra from Saturday till Tuesday. There is a likelihood of similar temperature to continue, especially after the subdued rainfall over major parts of India. And today is a World Ocean Day. This day is observed each year as a reminder of the importance and key role that oceans play in our daily lives. Commemorated by the United Nations every year on 8th of June, the day raises awareness among the global public of the impact human actions have on oceans. This year, the theme of Oceans Day is gender equality, which is vital to sustainability in many ongoing efforts to protect and preserve the health of oceans around the world. And now the news from the ICC Cricket World Cup 2019. Pakistan and Sri Lanka were forced to split the 2 points after their match was called off due to heavy rain in Bristol. Both teams now have 3 points with 1 win and 1 loss each. As a result, both Pakistan and Sri Lanka jumped to the top 4 in the World Cup points table. In today's matches, Bangladesh will take on England in Cardiff. The match will begin at 3 p.m. Indian time. And in the second match of the day, Afghanistan will take on New Zealand at Taunton beginning 6 p.m. Indian time. And in the French Open, the women's singles final will be played today. Australia's Ashleigh Barty and Czech player Marketa Vondrousova have set up the women's final clash to be played at the Roland Garros today. Barty can become Australia's first French Open champion since Margaret Court in 1973 if she overcomes 19-year-old Vondrousova, who has not lost a single set en route to her first major final. In the men's category, clay champion Rafael Nadal has entered the final of the French Open. Nadal beat Roger Federer in straight sets on Friday to book a place in the final. Nadal, who is now only a step away from his 12th French Open title, will either play Novak Djokovic or Dominic Thiem in Sunday's final. The second semi-final between Djokovic and Thiem will be played today. And that's all we have for you in this edition. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.